Hello, friends. Welcome into the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. I'm Claudia Bellofatto here in studio with my great friend Hayden Iverson. We have Danny Brasco joining us as well. This is, of course, the preview to UFC 327 in Miami. We're in Fort Lauderdale. Hayden, you're here with me. You're going to the fights this week, and of course, a big card, the vacant light heavyweight title on the line. You excited for this one?
I feel like a little kid with the night before Christmas. I mean, tomorrow is going to be a movie. The Miami cards are always some of the best, and we got a banger of a main event. Yuri Prochazka, whenever he fights, it's must-see TV. He's never in a boring fight, and when you get a main event that's guaranteed violence, I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, this pairing right here, us three, we love sanctioned violence. Danny Brasco, UFC 327, how you feeling?
Sanctioned violence, you talk about it, Hayden. 38 pro fights for the European samurai, Yuri Prochazka. He's met the judges once, and that was in a 2-round fight in Ryzen. I mean, this guy is kill or be killed. He's always making for just fantastic fighting. And the card is still stacked. I was bummed to see Tatsuro Taira and Josh Van fight fall out in the co-main, but now we got Costa moving up to 205. There's bangers stacked throughout. Miami Vice, baby, let's go.
And Costa knows how to get on that mic and give us all pumped up for that co-main, which we'll get to. We'll get to all the plays, our favorite plays for the main card, some prelims as well. We'll give you guys some plus money plays. I want to start with the storylines, though, and you both sort of just hinted at it with this main event. You have Prochazka, the former light heavyweight champ, which he won in just his 3rd UFC fight. Of course, the big storyline here is he can beat everybody but Alex Pereira, but he's not facing Alex Pereira, so that's okay. He's taking on Carlos Ulberg in this main event. Hayden, biggest storyline for you when it comes to these two fighters?
Well, this could be the start of Yuri Prochazka's title reign because Alex Pereira is gone now. He's up to heavyweight, and for the longest time, Yuri Prochazka was beating everybody. Not cleanly, but he was beating everybody except for Alex Pereira. He lost to him twice. I'm sure he wanted that trilogy with Alex Pereira, but he goes up to heavyweight now. Yuri has beaten a few guys in the top 5, Khalil Roundtree, Alexander Rakic. Those names are solid, but with this win here against Carlos Ulberg, he still has other names that he could beat. He hasn't been in the UFC all that long, and when he won his title against Glover Teixeira, he never truly lost it because he had the injury, so he vacated the belt, and now he has never had it back since. So this is a huge opportunity for him to get the belt back against a guy that's not named Alex Pereira, and then go on a run in the light heavyweight division to really solidify himself as that number 2 after Alex Pereira. Yeah,
you mentioned it, Hayden, and Danny, when you think about it, it has to be the most frustrating thing to know you've tried to keep that title. Injury was the thing holding you back, and then, of course, 2 brutal knockout losses to Alex Pereira. Ulberg has a big task to be that one guy to defeat him, not named Pereira. A lot of those fights, though, because Yuri is such the ultimate finisher, he gets the job done, but the scorecards were a little questionable before those finishes, so there is an opportunity here for Ulberg, Danny.
And that's kind of Yuri's magic, though. He's not looking to score points and win rounds. He wants to stalk you and finish the hunt. All the stuff he does, the mindfulness, the spirituality, the darkness retreats, the hunger fasts, it's all a part of his durability and his mentality that he can finish you and he can hurt you before you can hurt him. And that's what he's going to need to apply, because you're right. Carlos Ulberg is the far more technical fighter. He's got that nasty check left hook moving off, spinning off center line, nice straight right cross, and the low kicks, the ability to pop out the jab and score points. Yuri's going to eat damage to close distance. He's not a guy that's really sticking and moving, although I will say his defense is slightly improving. He's learned how to move his head a little bit, slip shots. He's just going to look to create chaos and violence. It pits a sniper against just an absolute hunter, and Ulberg's going to need to find the mark clean, because that's how Alex Pereira won. He switched his lights off with perfect shots and followed up to a point where Yuri couldn't recover. Yuri's recoverability is perhaps his best ability. Ulberg's going to need to finish him, or else he's going to get finished. I'm expecting nothing but violence here, Claudia.
Yeah, and Ulberg has been on a straight path, hasn't looked back since that debut loss. 9 straight wins for him, but like we said, you got to finish or you're going to be finished. 100% finish rate for Yuri. Let's talk about this co-main. As we mentioned, this was not what we were expecting, but it's a still good one. That's not English. It's still a good one. Asmat Murzakanov and Paulo Costa with this light heavyweight. Murzakanov undefeated in his pro career, 6-0 in the UFC, coming off 3 fight knockout streak, back-to-back first-round knockouts. Costa 2-4 in his past 6 after starting 13-0 in his pro career. And the big, asterisk here is that he's fighting at light heavyweight for just the second time. Danny, biggest storyline for you here.
Yeah, moving back to 205, Costa's unlocking some new opportunities. I think it opens up a lot of questions about the status of his career. Sometimes guys moving up later on, you say, well, what does that mean? Are they just done cutting weight and tired of overtraining? But Costa making 185 was always a miracle. I remember that fight against Marvin Vettori where he just refused to cut weight. They fought at a catch weight of like 202 pounds. He belongs at 205. The secret juice, the muscled physique, Paulo Costa, he's dangerous. He proved that he's still fighting at a high level in his last bout against Roman Kopylov, a southpaw kickboxer. He gets another southpaw matchup here, and he's getting the number 6 ranked guy. He fought guys like Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland in the middleweight division, just tough sledding. Maybe he has a better chance at chasing UFC gold in the light heavyweight division, and with a win, he immediately jumps into the top 5. Huge opportunity for Costa.
Yeah, and he lost that first fight at 205, unanimous decision to Vettori in 2021. Has plenty to say, as always, Hayden, coming before calling his opponent at Azamat a fat guy, saying that he's not worried about him. Biggest storyline for you in this one?
Yeah, if I had that body, I would call him fat too. Paulo Costa at 205 pounds. This dude is built like a brick house.
Yeah.
And I got to expect him to be in full force here against Azamat Murzakanov because he's going up against an undefeated Russian striker who's coming off back-to-back round 1 KO. So he's got to be minding his P's and Q's. But going into this one, as Brasco said, the move up to 205, what is the idea with this? Is it just because he doesn't want to cut weight anymore? Or is it because he wants to go to a new weight class with new matchups and possibly make a run towards the title? With Alex Pereira out, Yuri Prochazka and Ulberg step into the role of going for the title. And considering Costa hasn't fought any of these guys at 205, it's an open weight class. But on the other side, Murzakanov, the winning streak, the unbeaten streak, the fact that he is getting KOs at this level, he's right there for the next title shot as well with a big performance against a very durable and big name for the UFC in Paulo Costa.
Yeah, and not just finishes, but quick finishes for Murzakanov. 10 first-round finishes with 4 wins in a minute or less. Let's get to some storylines outside of the main and co-main. I'm looking at you first, Hayden. Actually, let's go with you, Brasco. Killer Club's swan song. Cub Swanson fighting for the final time in his 22-year career, taking on Nate Landwehr. What do you think about this one?
He's hanging it up, 42 years old after a 15-10 storied UFC career. Look, a lot of the time I'm a little bit worried about guys going into their retirement fight. They got one foot out the door. Are they going to give themselves fully? They're going to shell up. I think we're going to see everything from Cub Swanson, who's going to give himself fully to this fight. He's facing Nate the Train, a guy that's going to bring the brawl. There's no way that there's not violence in this fight. And Killer Cub's been in some nasty ones as of late. The fight of the night performance against Andre Fili in a very close split decision. That straight right hand, the scramble ability, switching stances, that smooth movement. I think Killer Cub's still going to have it in this last fight. I'm excited to see if he can sail off into the sunset with a big win. This guy's got wins over Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira in his career. So win, lose, or draw, Cub's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and I'm excited to see his last fight.
4th oldest fighter on the roster at 42 years old. That'll be a good one. Hayden, this is one that makes me laugh. It's always an exciting card when you hear the mic hot before, and that's certainly the case with Josh Hokett. Curtis Blades has been very clear. He's like, I'm not buying into this Colby Covington wannabe. I'm just going to sit here and be quiet, and I'll see him in the octagon. What do you think about Josh Hokett?
It's kind of like Colby Covington, but it's Colby Covington on steroids and a little bit more cringy, but it's like a car crash.
A little bit.
You can't look away.
More cringy.
You can't look away. At first it's like, okay, this is a little bit annoying, but then it's like, okay, you could clearly tell he's making a character of himself.
Right.
And so you kind of find it funny, but at the same time, you just don't want to look away from what Josh Hokett is doing. He's been the talk of the town this whole week. He has stolen the media day. He stole the press conference yesterday. And Saturday night, we'll see if he can steal the show against Curtis Blades, which is a huge step up in competition. But the undefeated Hokett, the incredible Hoke, might be able to spring the upset and solidify himself into the top 5 of the heavyweight division.
Hokett's out here trying to start fights with Yuri and Ulberg. Like, why? That's not even your fight to fight, man. Just relax. Hayden, Danny, I am Claudia. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. After the break, we're going to bring you some prelims, some prop bets, everything for UFC 327 on the other side. Welcome back to the Early Edge, UFC 327 breakdown. Danny Brasco, Hayden Iverson, Claudia Bellofatto with you. We gave you the storylines. Now we're going to give you the plays, starting with the prelims. Hayden at featherweight, Patricio Pitbull, Aaron Pico, a 9-year age gap here. Pitbull, the 9 years elder, but just his third UFC fight. Pico in his second. Both guys coming from Bellator. What do you expect here?
Yeah, both guys got a lot of experience in a different promotion. And now this is a matchup that I think should have happened back when they were in Bellator, but it's kind of too late for me to believe that Pico, comes in here against Pitbull and puts on a great performance, because we just saw him get knocked out against Lerone Murphy. So that's 4 knockout losses for Aaron Pico, which I don't like at all. But on the Pitbull side, he's 38 years of age going up against maybe somebody would call a glass cannon in Aaron Pico, because he's going to go in there and he's going to throw heavy hands, he's going to take you down, and he's going to throw heavy ground and pound on the ground as well. So I think this is kind of a car crash type of fight. That's how Aaron Pico usually fights. Maybe he'll fight a little bit more reserved, coming back off to the knockout loss to Lerone Murphy. But I like the fight to not go the distance here at minus 150. The older guy against the young, dangerous guy who's also very fragile. I think there's a lot of ways this fight could finish. So minus 150 looks good to me.
Yep, I like that price a lot as well. Danny, we're both looking at the same fight, women's strawweight. Tatiana Suarez, Lupita Godinez. I'm going with the spread here, but I want you to come first. Talk to me about Suarez, the former title challenger, second-ranked contender now. Of course, dealt with some injury. She's good to go now. What do you think happens here?
Yeah, she's really revving her career back up. I mean, not only did she deal with injuries, she beat cancer, in the middle of her MMA career. So extremely mentally strong. And, now she's in a position to challenge again for the belt, because Wei Li went up to flyweight. We'll see what she does, but it feels like this matchup could thrust either one of these fighters into a title eliminator or potentially be next up. I see it being really close. We know about the prolific wrestling of Tatiana Suarez. Her striking game still has a little ways to come. And I think it's going to be close for that reason. Lupi Godinez has that pressure Mexican-style boxing. She's also a very skilled wrestler and grappler herself. So when Suarez struggles to get takedowns, Godinez could be winning those rounds with her pressure and her volume. But when Suarez does land, she keeps control time. She only went 3 of 12 on her takedown attempts against Amanda Lemos, but she still secured 9 minutes of control time. I think when she lands them, she'll make them count, and Lupi will make the other moments count on the feet with her, ability to defend the takedowns off and land boxing combinations. So ultimately, it's going to be damage versus control, and I think the judges are going to be split on this one. I like some big plus odds instead of trying to pick a side. Give me fight to be won or decided, by split decision at plus 275.
Yeah, we all sort of talked about this off camera. We all went back and forth on how this does end. Clearly, the market, we all agree, it goes to the judges. To go the distance is minus 400. And sometimes I like to do this. I'm like, okay, does it make sense then to take the points on the spread? I know we usually talk about that with football and basketball, but you can do that with an underdog in UFC. So I'm going to do that with Godinez, take the 3.5. Suarez, like you said, she's come back from so much, arguably the best wrestler, I think, in this division. Elite control, which you talked about, extremely accurate. And it does worry me a little bit if it does go down to the mat because of her edge with grappling. But what Godinez has been able to do in the turnaround of her career as well, just in the wins, 6-2 in her last 8, back-to-back unanimous decision wins, only 2 losses too. Like, we have to talk about good losses, if that makes sense, to Mackenzie Dern, the current champ, and Janji Roba, former title challenger. So I think that's good losses, if we can call it that. She has the striking again. You mentioned she has the grappling. That worries me a little bit, but I think if she can win some of those exchanges, it goes to the judges. We should be okay with the 3.5. Let's talk about some props.
And Claudia, sorry to interrupt, Claudia. I want to say, to your point, against Janji Roba and Dern, 2 very skilled grapplers, she lost 29-28. So your plus 3.5 spread play is definitely live there.
Love it, Danny. You can interrupt me anytime to make me feel better about my play, okay? I'll swing it back to you. Talk to me about your favorite prop on this card.
Favorite prop, what are we looking at here? Yeah, I like Curtis Blades and Josh Hokett to end by knockout. I think we're getting a short price tag for a heavyweight fight. Whenever you see minus 145 for something like that, for 2 guys who can potentially end the fight with 1 shot, I got to take a shot on it here, especially if it's a Curtis Blades level check. Josh Hokett's just 8-0 in his pro career. He has fought nobody so far and faced 0 adversity, Look at Blade's last 5 fights. He's fighting the top tier of the heavyweight division. And when he's lost, it's been against power punchers, guys that have the one-hitter quitter, that have just put his lights out. Now, that's not necessarily how we're profiling Josh Hokett. He's a guy that just wears you down with pace and pressure, but he's landed some good shots. He can hit you with the club and sub. You know, he puts on a lot of volume and a lot of pressure, makes the fight nasty. So, hey, maybe he tests if Curtis Blade's chin is still there after a long career in which he sustained a lot of damage at this division, or it goes the opposite way. Hokett is not ready. He fatigues. He can't keep up that pace over a hard 3 rounds, and Blades puts him away with some hammer fists on the ground, something like that. So either way, I don't think this fight sees the scorecards. I'll take one of these fighters to get a knockout at minus 145.
Danny, I love when we're on the same page when it comes to fights we like. I'm looking at this one as well. We talked about the storyline that Hayden brought up, the whole Josh Hokett. I almost called it Hokett. That's not a word, but you know what I mean? Like, it's his little show. It's his show. Yeah. But they mentioned wrestling a lot. A lot of the questions from reporters at the presser to Blades was, you know, Hokett keeps talking about his wrestling and the collegiate wrestling and all that. He's like, that's great, but I've been doing this in the UFC. I'm a much better wrestler, so I'm not too worried about all that. And I have the most takedowns in heavyweight history, which he does, 64. So I'm going to go over a takedown. This is not a prop I usually bet, but only need one, minus 125. I know we had the knee issues in the past, but he's good now. Even in his last fight, though, where he was banged up, he came out on top and had 15 takedown attempts and landed 2. All we need is one here. And I just think with the talk back and forth, with wrestling being the big thing, he's like, yeah, I'm going to do my best to get this guy down. And I think he gets at least one at minus 125. Hayden, you have 2 plays here. Talk to me about Kevin Holland first, KO or sub.
Yeah, we're going to take him to get it done by finish. I mean, he is a natural finisher. I mean, 6'3" at the welterweight division with an 81-inch reach. You're going to be able to catch a lot of people on the feet with those long arms. And he's got power. And on the ground, he can snatch up a Darce choke, an anaconda, a guillotine, a rear naked choke, an arm bar. He's got a wide variety of ways to finish the fight. And he's going up against Randy Brown, who is 35 years of age, coming off of a knockout loss. And when I look at Randy Brown's, run recently, 4 of his last 5 wins come against guys that are 37 years of age or older. So Kevin Holland does not fit that bill. So I think Kevin Holland, this could be a nice buy low spot on him. We never really know what we're going to get with Kevin Holland sometimes. Sometimes he's motivated, sometimes he's not. But he's on back-to-back losses. So, his stock is pretty low right now. I think we get a buy low spot on Kevin Holland to get it done inside the distance at plus 210.
Yeah, I love that. 82% finish rate for him. 23 of his 28 wins came by finish. You also like Medeiros by decision at plus 235?
Yeah, I mean, I like the younger guy here in Medeiros, who I think has shown just enough in the UFC to be on the same page as Chris Padilla. When Padilla came into the UFC, I didn't expect him to really be much, and he's been an underdog in 4 of his 4 wins. So now he's the favorite, and I think we're getting a little bit of a spot on Medeiros that we can take advantage of that market overreaction, because Medeiros is a guy that is a very solid striker. He has shown some grappling deficiencies, but he's won every single one of those fights. So he finds a way to win fights. He's training at the MMA labs now, so I think this is going to be his second camp. I love that camp in Arizona. They do a really good job at building their fighters and coming into fights with good game plans. So plus 235, I think these are 2 guys that are very durable. I think it probably goes to decision. And if it does, I think Medeiros is probably going to outpoint him from the outside and get it done on the scorecards.
And that is the early prelim, and he is on a 9-fight win streak right now. His last loss, February 2022. Hayden, Danny, this is so much fun. So glad to be back with you guys. When you all come back on the other side, we're bringing you plus money bets, parlays, underdogs for UFC 327 on the other side. Welcome back to the Early Edge. We're breaking down UFC 327 with Danny and Hayden. UFC in Miami this weekend. Let's go. We're in the Florida Fort Lauderdale studio, so it hits home. Hayden's going. He's pumped up. Me and Danny will be watching. We're equally as excited. We brought you guys plenty of plays and storylines, but the fun continues because now we're getting in to plus money. Let's start with some parlays. You're both looking at the same fight, middleweight, Kelvin Gastelum, Vincent Luque. We talked about this off camera, and you said something interesting, Hayden, about his age, and Luque, 34 years old. This could be what?
it could possibly be his retirement fight. I mean, it might be a hot take considering he's, 34 years of age. So, I mean, that's not really an age that you see guys retire. But
UFC years.
yeah, I mean, the fact is he just has not looked the same since the Jeff Neal fight, where after that, he went and got his head checked and he had a brain bleed. And then he came back and fought RDA, went to a decision, and then he had that fight against Buckley that just did not look good. It looked like, I'm pretty sure he actually said he mailed it in round two against Buckley. And then the last fight against Joel Alvarez, it was a beatdown. He made it to decision, but there were questions in the corner if he was going to continue. So, his stock is pretty dang low at this point, and I don't know if he's going to be able to take the punches from Kelvin Gastelum, because Gastelum's got that brick chin. I mean, you can't knock that dude out if you hit him with a sledgehammer. So he's going to go in there and he's going to throw his hands, and I think Luque is not going to deal well with it because he doesn't like taking those punches anymore. So we'll go Kelvin Gastelum money line, and we'll parlay that with Tatiana Suarez money line for a little Mexican-American plus money parlay.
Okay, I like it. And Luque, Danny, first fight at middleweight in the UFC, 24 fights at welterweight. You're looking at this same fight and same play here with Gastelum. What's the other side of it?
We just asked a question about Paulo Costa. What does it say about his career moving to 205? Yeah. There are some questions there. With this one, I think Vicente Luque's move to 185 says he's done overtraining. He's done making the hard weight cuts to welterweight. I kind of agree with Hayden's sentiment. I mean, after the one-sided beatdown against Joel Alvarez, what's left of Luque? Because a lot of the times he's thrived in firefights. That's what's made him so great. Of course, he has the ability to pull off those slick front chokes, the Darces, the Anacondas. But unless he can do that to Kelvin Gastelum, which I don't expect, I don't see him winning a boxing affair here. Like Hayden mentioned, Gastelum's iron chin is still there. He just fought Joe Pyfer. We saw when Joe Pyfer lands clean, he just put away Israel Adesanya. Gastelum arguably won that fight. He started to rally back after taking a brutal beating in the first round. You could argue he won rounds 2 and 3. He certainly won 3, and he's a guy that won't stop coming forward, throwing the 1-2s, southpaw boxing. I think Luque is going to have a tough time with him, and if Gastelum doesn't win by knockout, he'll clearly, be scoring more with his boxing. So I like him as the first leg, and I'll combine it with Esteban Ribovic on the spread. Claudia, you like the spread plays. How about Ribovic to win a round at plus 3.5? He's fighting Mateus Gamrot, number 8 ranked lightweight, a guy that just pushes the pace with his wrestling. But I expect this fight to be a damage versus control type of situation. Ribovic has landed over 120 significant strikes in 3 straight UFC fights, and his grappling defense has improved. He stuffed 9 takedowns against his opponent in his last one. If he can keep this fight standing for enough time, I think he'll land enough to at least win a round against a wrestler in Gamrot. So put those two together, you get some plus odds. I like this one, Claudia.
Yeah, you talked about the striking, the grappling, 80% finish rate for him, and he has won 4 of his last 5. All right, those are 2 parlay options for you guys. If you don't want to pair things together, you could just look to an underdog, Danny Brasco. We're going back to Cub Swanson at even money here.
Yeah, I think he can do it. A lot of the time, like I mentioned, I fade the retiring guys. But recently, we saw Michael Chiesa walk off into the sunset with the easiest submission win you'll see of all time. Now, this ain't that, okay? Nico Price is probably an easier out than Nate the Train Landwehr, a guy that's going to bring the noise to his opponent. But Landwehr, a guy that's fought behind that brawling style, is someone who needs to be able to take one to give one and walk through the fire. He's now been knocked out in consecutive fights. And like I said in the intro, I think Killer Cub still got it. That long, straight right hand, the ability to switch stances, kicks to the body. His MMA experience is fantastic. And in a fight of the night against Andre Fili recently, he proved his chin is still there. His last 2 losses came against Giga Chikadze and Jonathan Martinez, guys that are excellent with their kicking game and were ranked opponents. Landwehr isn't as skilled as those guys, and I think if he walks into a straight right hand, even if Cub doesn't knock him out, he can hurt him and just make him ease up on that pressure to where Swanson perhaps can win on the judges' scorecards with his output and with his slick movement. So yeah, I think we get a nice ride into the sunset win from Killer Cub, Claudia. I'm taking him as an underdog here. Line's moving in his favor.
I'm looking at this now. Landwehr and Swanson, their combined age, guys, 80 years old in 3 months. It'll go down as the oldest fight in UFC featherweight history. That's a lot of years. Yeah. Over 80 years, that's a lot of years. You got another one for us, Danny Brasco? Another underdog? Or no?
Yeah, I do. I talked about the plus 3.5 previously for Ribovic. I'm taking him to win this fight. Okay. I got him at plus 170. And it just seems like Gamrot gets hurt in a lot of fights. He's won some split decisions that I wasn't sure he deserved. We remember back in 2022, he beat Arman Sarukian. He did not deserve that win. That's when I feel like he peaked. Then Beneil Dariush picked him apart with the kickboxing. Then he won a split over Jalen Turner, in which I felt the damage should have outweighed the control. And, he's coming off a loss to the king, Charles Oliveira, where he just got beat up and choked out. No one's going to fault him for that loss against a legend like Dubronx. But it just feels like the damage he's taken against Dan Hooker, too, in that fight. If Ribovic is able to land, bust him up, and at least, just show some cuts and some damage, then that could really outweigh the wrestling, because Gamrot's not a guy that keeps great control time. He's a rinse and repeat takedown guy. So if Ribovic can separate and land, I think he wins this fight. The plus 3.5 is minus 170. That's about 63% implied odds. The plus 170 money line, more like 37% implied odds. That's a huge gap in between what could be a 1-1 fight going into the third round, Claudia. So give me the guy that's 6 years younger and has the damage upside.
Okay, with the implied odds, Danny Brasco, you hear that, Hayden? I should have brought in my implied odds numbers, but thank you, Danny, for that. Thank you guys for the plus money. When we come back, what you've all been waiting for, we're going to give you our best bets for the main, for the co-main, and then, of course, we'll give you our best bets at the end of the show. All that on the other side here on The Early Edge. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the UFC 327 breakdown. Danny Brasco, Hayden Iverson, Claudia Bellofatto with you. I didn't realize until right now, fellas, we're heads up on this co-main, okay? So it's time for a little battle. We've got Azamat Murzakanov and Paulo Costa. We talked about the storylines heading into this one. Paulo Costa, a pretty decent dog here, which scares me. Okay, it scares me. I am going to take the favorite. I'm going to bring the juice down by going Murzakanov to win in over 1.5 rounds, because it's not going to be easy. The chin on this guy, Costa, is scary. The issue is, though, he welcomes those hits, guys. He puts his hands down, lethargic stance, and I think with the weight class shift, it's going to show up here. I just do. Azamat has the power, the finishing ability. He's faster. He's accurate. He's landing strikes at a 57% clip, and it's his comfortable weight class. So his defense is better. Is it? Because we haven't really seen it tested. That does worry me a little bit. With all of that said, I just think that he has the edge, and I think Costa's going to get lazy, put his hands down, get maybe a little too cocky, and it's going to hurt him. But I do think it goes over 1.5 rounds. So that way you take the favorite, you bring the juice down. Now tell me why you think I'm wrong, Danny Brasco.
Well, I do like the over 1.5. I agree with a lot of your sentiments, because I think it's going to go one of two ways. Either Murzakanov picks him apart, that right jab, the hand speed, the timing, it's all there for him. He looks like a really efficient and technical light heavyweight. But Costa is coming off a win over a southpaw in Roman Kopylov. I'm having a feeling that maybe there's a level of comfortability against lefties. He was slipping that right jab and landing his own right hands. I'm going to take a shot that the 205 power and just shape and cardio and durability is intact for Costa at this new division, and can potentially land him a finish win. I like him by knockout at plus 400 for a little sprinkle. Small bet here, because Murzakonov's a guy that has faced some adversity here and there in the later stages. Early on, I don't want to be too critical because the guy's only getting better, but I remember an early UFC fight against Tufan and Chukwi, which he looked a little fatigued later on, against Dustin Jacoby in a more recent fight where he lost the third round. If Costa's shape is there at 205, maybe it could take just one clean shot, maybe a left hook to the body, a right hand, or a nasty body kick to really zap the cardio of a guy in Murzakanov and maybe hunt him and find the finish. So I'm going to take a chance on 205 Costa, Claudia, but I may eat my words. It could look really bad if just his mentality isn't there, because we never know what we're going to get out of Paulo Costa.
Well, I hope that is the case. Danny, Hayden, you agree with Danny, though?
Yeah, I agree with Danny. I mean, there's this thing in the MMA world that we call lighter man skill, and I can relate it to basketball. You get the 7-foot center, they're not going to be out there dribbling the ball with ease. They're not going to be out there shooting threes. There are some exceptions, but the smaller point guard, he can do it all. He can take it to the rim, he can shoot the three, good at the line, he can pass it off as well. So these smaller guys moving up weight classes have actually seen a lot of success. And I think Paulo Costa can have a lot of success here against Murzakanov, because Murzakanov, his best attribute at this weight class is his speed. And that's usually going up against the 6'4" Alexander Rakic, who's got to use all that size and length to move around the octagon, and Murzakanov just deads him with a jab. So, I mean, that size for Murzakanov at 5'10" is kind of a weapon at 205, and now he's going up against a guy that has been a career middleweight, and he's been dealing with these guys that are a lot faster. So going up to 205, as long as it's not just an idea that he doesn't want to cut weight anymore and he's going to take, a little bit of a back seat to his dedication to the sport, I think he can get this one done. As Brasco mentioned, the southpaw angle for Prochazka, he's historically been very good against southpaws, beating up the lead leg with some inside leg kicks. The body kick is open as well. And I think Murzakanov's gas tank has always been a little bit questionable. Now, this is a great sell high spot on him coming off of back-to-back round 1 knockouts. And on the Costa side, he cashed as a dog. Now he's moving up a weight class. There's questions about it, but I'm not worried. Give me the dog.
Hard to dribble the ball when you're getting punched in the face, Hayden, sure. When you're eating punches left and right. Okay. We'll move on to the main event. Vacant light heavyweight title on the line, of course. This is a huge fight. It's going to be a good one, especially when you see the odds here, fellas. Pretty much a coin flip. Yuri is seeing some money, but whenever you see a coin flip in a main event, you know it's going to be good. I'm trying to see here. I think we're all on the same page, which is not a hot take. We don't think the fight is going to go the distance. That's where I'm playing it straight up at -125. For Yuri, it's be knocked out or get knocked out. That's what it's been for 5 straight fights for him. Thrives in the chaos. Again, with him, can be a little, reckless, have the hands down, and that can be really dangerous against a striker like you have here with accuracy and the composure. We talked about that, Danny. You always say it's the chaos versus the composure. That's certainly the case here against Ulberg. Ulberg, 9 straight wins. He's looked good, but it's also his first ever title fight in his career, and that's a really big jump, going up to 5 rounds against a former champ who not only has the experience, the 3-inch reach advantage, he's going to mix in those heavy knees from the clinch, the grappling to tire him out. So I think whoever wins is going to happen inside the distance. So I'll take that straight up play at -125. Hayden, how you playing it?
I hate to burst your bubble, Claudia, but I don't think the fight to not go the distance is -125. I think it's actually closer to like -360.
Okay, well that makes sense. I'm like, then why is it such a good price here?
Yeah, if it was -125,
it must have been somebody to win and fight not to go the distance.
Yeah, maybe.
Or under.
If that
Hold on,
was
let
the
me find
case-
it. Well, you know what? I don't care. I think it's going to hit, so I'm still going to play it.
Yeah, free.
I like it
Lay the
too.
370. It's free
Play
unit.
it.
I like it as well. I'm going to go
Careful,
just a
but-
little bit more specific, though. I'm going to take the fight to end by
trying to find
KO
the price.
because I don't think either guy's going to get a submission here. And -250 on this fight to end by knockout feels like it should be more like -350, -400. And honestly, I don't want to pick a side. I don't want to pick against Yuri, but at the same time, I know this guy is super liable to get knocked out against an elite kickboxer like Carlos Ulberg early on in this fight. So if I were to break it down, I would say Carlos Ulberg round 1 or 2 KO, and then you go Yuri Prochazka round 3, 4, or 5 KO, because I think it's a pretty binary fight. Yuri likes to build into his fights, while Ulberg is very dangerous early, and we've seen him slow down in some fights. His only loss, it was a long time ago against Kennedy and Nzechukwu. He only had 4 fights at the time, so it's not a guarantee that Ulberg is going to slow down as the fight goes on, but the pace that Yuri creates, I mean, anyone is going to start to get fatigued and overwhelmed. So fight to end by KO, -250. Normally, I'm not laying -200 on most things, but I feel like this is pretty close to a gimme. And if it doesn't hit, then at least we know we're probably going to be getting an absolute banger where 2 guys were not going to go out that night.
Yeah, you really burst my bubble. I'm like, why? This doesn't make sense to me.
I was going to say something if he didn't. I was like, there's no way.
I don't know why I didn't go back to look, but of course it's not my.
I'd be taking out a loan if
But
that was the case.
you know what? yeah. There goes. I clearly haven't put my bets in yet. Danny, talk to me. I'm going to try and find a bet that makes sense.
I'm picking a side, Hayden, and I like the way that he characterized Yuri Prochazka's attack, right? It's something, what he does to his opponents is he not only fatigues you, he overwhelms you. It's twofold pressure. It's that cardio pressure, he zaps your gas tank, but it's the mental pressure because he's stalking you from every angle and he's willing to take damage to close the distance. I think this is going to be a classic Yuri fight, like we saw against Khalil Roundtree, like we saw against Alexander Rakic. He will be losing until he isn't. He'll be taking shots, but he'll be showing every look in the book, jumping, spinning, feinting shots from awkward angles, throwing from odd places that Ulberg isn't going to see coming because you can't. Yuri doesn't even know what he's going to do next, I feel like. Those blindfold videos of him hitting the oak tree in the woods, it makes for that, a situation where Yuri can just create angles that his opponent cannot see. And with that pressure, with that durability, with this belief in himself, I think he's going to be at the peak of his game knowing that Pereira's gone. It's all about self-belief for Yuri. That's what makes him great. And I think he's even getting more technical. I mentioned the slipping and moving against Jamal Hill. He actually puts his hands up and moves his head now. This is a guy in his 38 fight, career has for 35 fights of it probably used the crown of his head as his main defense. So, I just believe that he'll be able to take the shots that Ulberg gives. If a check left hook lands and he puts Yuri's lights out in early rounds, like Hayden mentioned, then so be it. But if this gets past the second round, I gotta feel like the pressure and the unorthodox approach from Yuri is going to start to mount and win him the light heavyweight title.
Love it, Danny. I'm going to do the same play. I'm going to go with Yuri knockout, though, plus 140. And that is the real price, people. You can go look it up. I don't know what happened there. Okay, I slept like 3 hours last night. I'm sick. Leave me alone. That is your co-main. That's your main. We do still have best bets to come on the other side for UFC 327. UFC returns to Miami. Welcome back to the Early Edge, wrapping up the UFC 327 show on this Friday. Danny Brasco, Hayden Iverson, Claudia Bellofatto with you. Best bets, and we made sure all the odds are correct here, so don't worry, folks. We're giving you real good plays. Hayden, best bets on UFC 327. What do you got?
Yeah, I got two for you. First one, we're going to go a little bit of a violence angle against two old men who we said have a combined age of 80 years old. And if that's the case, the last thing to go that they say is the power and the dangerous capabilities that you possess. But the durability does go pretty fast. So we get two old guys here for the fight to not go the distance at minus 135. I like the KO angle from Cub. I like maybe a late submission for Nate Landwehr or maybe a late KO. Nate is just always going to be in your face. I mean, these guys are going to clash. There's no way that this is going to be a boring fight. And if it does go the distance, these guys are going to be leaving, probably getting stretchered out, considering their age as well. So minus 135, I like that for the first one. And then we're going dog hunting with Esteban Ribovics. Brasco likes him as well. So I've always been a very bad picker on Mateusz Gamrot fights. And I need to get my lick back here with Esteban Ribovics because historically, every time he fights, I am losing money on Mateusz Gamrot, whether I bet on him or I bet against him. So last time out, I laid off the Charles Oliveira fight, and I thought Charles Oliveira was going to win, and he did win. So now I have a little bit of confidence. I broke the streak last time out. Esteban Ribovics, plus 160 and growing. He's the younger guy, more dangerous. Mateusz Gamrot, 35 years of age, constantly getting hurt in fights, can't really do a lot of damage with his takedowns. So whether it's inside the distance or on the scorecards, I think Ribovics is super live to get it done.
Ribovics, 5 career wins within the first 90 seconds of a fight, so maybe it's a quick one and you'll feel better about your feel on Gamrot. Okay, Danny, what do you think? Best bets?
Yeah, we're all over the same angle here, Hayden. It's Ribovic plus 3.5. I'll just take the slightly safer angle. I'm betting him on the money line too, but I absolutely think he can win a round. I talked about how many split decisions Gamrot's been in earlier. Like Hayden mentioned, he's a guy that's just been taking a lot of damage. Looking back to that split decision loss to Dan Hooker, that doesn't age that great anymore considering the trajectory that Hooker went on. And I feel like a guy like Ribovic, young, 29, 6 years younger, volume striker, has all the damage upside here, and a guy who stuffed 9 takedowns in his last fight. If he can fend those off from Gamrot and make them not count, the judges are going to reward the strikes and the damage over the takedowns and control. So give me Ribovic to at least win a round here. I think this is a totally fair price tag. And then, look, I got to make a pick on Yuri. I believe in him. Now that Pereira's gone, it's his time to reclaim the belt. He can create chaos, and I think Ulberg eventually will break to the pressure like they all do. I also believe that Yuri can take his best shot and keep marching forward. And if Ulberg's mind breaks at any point, if he questions himself at any moment, Yuri will smell blood and hunt that down. And if they grapple, if they tangle, I give him a lot of upside too. I mean, don't forget, he submitted Glover Teixeira, way back when. Yuri can grapple too. He can hurt you with ground and pound. And eventually, I think he's going to find the finish. So, Claudia, give me Yuri to achieve greatness. I think we're all rooting for him, too. Maybe there's some bias in my pick, but, We just want to see that Yuri proud face, right? The tears welling up. Like, nothing would make me happier. That's how we should cap off UFC 327.
Yeah, I love it. Beautifully said. I'll add that to my card. I don't even know if we...
Let's go for that.
But let's go for that. Women's strawweight, you and I both talked about it, Danny. I am going to go... I think, Hayden, you're on Suarez, right? You're on Suarez.
Parlay.
Yeah, okay, we'll say this goes the distance, right? And I'm hoping that with a little help, we can cover the 3.5 with Godinez. I understand Suarez is very scary to bet against, but I think, the good losses for Godinez coming off a decision win over former champ Jessica Andrade in her last outing. She has the striking. She does have the grappling. Maybe not the grappling edge, but she does have the grappling. So I'll take the 3.5 with her. And then I guess how do you guys feel about takedown props? Do we like those? I've never bet it before. This is my first time. I'm going to go with the blades over the takedowns. All of this talk before, and he said it, I have the most takedowns landed in UFC heavyweight history. He said, it's disrespectful the way that Hokit is talking. He said he's 6'1", 235. I'm going to be seeing his moves from a mile away. And that makes me feel confident in him. So that's where I'm going to go. I'll take the 3.5 there with the women's fight, and then blades over half a takedown. All we need is one. And that real price, Hayden, is -125. Okay, Hayden, you're going to this in Miami. Talk to me. What's the plan? What's your plan when you go to fights?
I got to be there for the first fight of the night, of course. I'm not showing up for the main card. I got to be there probably 20, 30 minutes before the first fight. So then, we lock in, we get some drinks, we get some food, we make sure we got all the parlays in, and then we watch the fights and we have a great time. There's nothing like a UFC event live in person. I've been to many sporting events. I will always say UFC is the best thing to see live in person, and I haven't been to one since the last summer, so it's been a while, and I actually missed last year's Miami card. I usually try to go every single year, so this is going to be a fun reunited with the Casilla Center in Miami.
A reunition with the
reunition.
We just make words up here.
What is the word?
Curious, your favorite fight that you've seen in person, Hayden?
My favorite fight?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it would probably be Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira in Miami, which was my first Miami card that I went to. And the only reason I say that is because the moment of him knocking out Alex Pereira was so crazy. The arena was like scared, but still excited at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, split, whether they're on Pereira, whether they're on Adesanya. The whole lead up to that fight, Adesanya walking out, you could tell the determination he had on his face that night, and he hasn't won a fight since. So I think he left it all out there that night.
And you got to see it.
Yeah, to be in that arena that night, I think it was kind of special.
Yeah. Danny, what's your favorite fight you've been to?
Yeah, a lot of people say he traded his soul for that win, Hayden. My favorite, UFC 295. I had a box in Madison Square Garden. My friend's friend worked for the New York Times, so I got hooked up. And I watched one of my favorite fighters, Tom Aspinall, knock out Sergey Pavlovich. And we also saw Alex Pereira knock out Yuri Prochazka for the first time on that card. So that was fantastic. Electric card from the Garden, UFC 295.
I'm trying to think. Probably, I went to see Masvidal in Vegas. So it was a while ago, obviously, when I lived in Vegas. It didn't last long. I think it was Colby. Yeah, it must have been. It was cool. It's always fun. If any of you out there have never been, certainly go check it out. All right, we got about a minute left. Final say, final thoughts, UFC 327, something you want to just hit home for those people watching, whether it's a bet, a storyline to look out for. Danny, what do you think?
It's Yuri's time, Claudia. There's nothing else that needs to be. This is what I think the MMA universe needs. We all want it. We're all pulling for it, and Yuri deserves that belt.
Hayden?
Yeah, this is a great card from top to bottom. So don't tune in late. Show up for the first fight of the night. Turn it on, because from top to bottom, I think they're really good fights overall.
Be like Hayden. Get your parlays in. Get your drinks. Get your snacks. Check out the early prelims. Because, folks, pay-per-view is in the past. It's all on Paramount Plus now. Thanks for hanging out with us here for the breakdown of UFC 327. For Danny Brasco, Hayden Iverson, I'm Claudia Bellofatto. Have a great weekend. And check out the Early Edge while you're at it, Monday through Friday. It's our daily SportsLine betting podcast. Scan that QR code to check it out. Happy Friday.